Today we have a crazy story of a father-in-law who would rather go homeless rather than contribute to household expenses. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, entitled parents leave child at church for free babysitting. I read another story that reminded me of this incident which took place in the early 2000s. I was working at a large church, 2,000 plus members, and on Sundays I ran the audio and video booth. We had 3 services, a 7 a.m. early service, the main service at 10 a.m., and a late service at 11:30 a.m. Each service ran for about an hour and 15 minutes. One Sunday during the 10 a.m. service, the pastor's wife went into labor 3 weeks early. The pastor left in the middle of his sermon and the youth pastor took over. The youth pastor did a great job of taking over and wishing the mother and baby well, and that service wrapped up early. We had a quick meeting to decide what to do about the 11:30 service, and the youth pastor volunteered to give a sermon he'd prepared for the youth group later in the week. It was his first time giving a sermon in front of that many people up on the big stage. He was nervous and rolled through it quickly, then forgot about the closing songs, so church ended at 12:15 instead of the normal 12:45. Everyone had cleared out of the church by 12:30-ish. I shut down all the equipment and turned out the lights and went down the hall to make sure the lights were out in the classrooms, like I normally did. One light was on, and I found Kay, another church employee who worked in the nursery on Sundays. She was sitting in a rocking chair rocking a toddler, and I saw tears rolling down Kay's face. I asked her what was wrong, and she could hardly speak, she was so upset. She said the toddler's parents had dropped him off before early service and never came back. The poor baby had been there for almost 5 hours. The parents hadn't given a contact number. All Kay knew was the child's first name. I immediately called the youth pastor, who quickly turned around and came back to the church. The child was very out of sorts, either hungry or tired. We had snacks but no food, and there really wasn't a place to put a kid down for a nap. I ran to get some chicken nuggets while they figured out what to do. When I got back, a couple had pulled in right in front of me. They asked where everyone was, and I said church ended early. They said, okay, we're just here to pick up our son. I wasn't about to get involved with the drama, so I just unlocked the door and let them in. The youth pastor was livid and lit into them. It turns out the parents wanted some time alone and had been dropping their kid off at church and then leaving to go do stuff. They had been doing this for weeks, just dropping him around 7:45 a.m. and coming to pick him up around 12:45 p.m. Here's the part where the parents are really entitled. They got mad at the youth pastor for ending church early. They yelled at him for endangering their child and threatened to sue. The dad was up in the youth pastor's face, and I thought they might fight, but the youth pastor was a big dude, and I think that kept the dad from doing anything else. I didn't stay in there. I went into the next room with Kay and the child and gave him the nuggets, which he gulped down. The parents finally took the kid and left. The youth pastor and his wife took us to lunch because we, mostly Kay, were still upset by the whole thing. I think about that kid a lot. I hope his parents didn't abandon him. I wish I had a follow-up, but as far as I know, they never came back. You know, it really takes a special kind of person to be barred from ever being able to attend a church, but these people found a way to do so. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you can't get enough of hearing about these entitled parents, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, you've set off enough of them. Time for LeDondre to have a turn. Each year, I host a neighborhood party for the 4th of July. Everyone is welcome, unless they decide to be a jerk. I live in a pretty poor area. I'm the only one with a pool, and I bought the property next door and knocked the house down, so I have a double-sized plot. I'm not saying any of this to brag, just explaining background information. Plenty of room to party. The party went pretty well. People started showing up around 1 p.m. We played in the pool. We chased my dogs around the yard. We ate some barbecue and we had some beers. The teenagers went off to take a walk, read, smoke some pot right before sunset. So it was just adults and small children around when I started my fireworks show. Every year I spend $2,000 to $3,000 on fireworks. I only set them off between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. on the 4th. I'm not one of those folks setting off fireworks for a week before or after the holiday. One rule I have is I am the only person who's allowed to light fireworks on my land. If anyone is getting rushed to the ER, missing some fingers, it's not going to be one of my guests, it's going to be me. So I set off my first 3 rounds of mortars, 28 total fireworks, and as I'm getting set up for the 4th round, 22 fireworks, a woman who I have never met approaches me. She's apparently my 4th neighbor to the west's sister, but I had no idea who she was at the time. She said, "My daughter's really enjoying the show, but she wants to light one instead of just watching." I said, "Sorry, I don't let anyone light fireworks on my property but me. This isn't exactly safe and I don't want to get sued." She said, "Oh, sugar, it's okay. She'll be fine. Look how sad she is." At this moment, she points at a smiling girl who is clearly no older than 7. I said, "I'm sorry, but even if she were 21, I wouldn't let her do it. There's no way I'm letting a child risk their fingers." She said, "You just want to hog all the fun for yourself. You set enough of them off. Time for LeDondre to have a turn. Stop being selfish." I said, "Ma'am, you and your daughter have been enjoying my food, my pool, and my yard for the past 8 hours for free. And you're calling me selfish because I care about your child's safety?" She says, "But she wants to light one." I said, "That's not going to happen, and if you continue to push the issue, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Now, kindly step back so that I can continue the show. We've been arguing this whole time and people want to see fireworks, not arguments. Just sit back and enjoy the holiday." At that point, she went over to her daughter, grabbed her by the arm, and went back to her brother's house. I feel bad for the kid. She missed the rest of the show, and she missed the homemade ice cream cake I bring out at the end of the party. Her brother and his kids stayed at the party and had a great time. I hope the little girl was at least able to watch the show from the window or their own yard or something. This is so sad because you just know that that girl was watching these fireworks like, "I'd like to set one off." And most likely, if it was explained it wasn't safe, they probably would have taken that at face value and accepted it. But this entitled parent not only had to fight for their kids' depression or whatever over it, but when they didn't get their way, they just have to ruin the fun entirely for the kid. Our next story is, "My parents are next level nuts." Hey everyone, I'm a 16-year-old boy. I reside in Canada and want to share probably the most cluttered 3 hours of my life that all happened this morning. Okay, so picture this. I get woken up by my sister that I've failed a subject and need to go sign up for summer school. I just say okay as I'm not too awake yet, but don't mind it. I then start to hear my sister belittling me and continuously abusing the fact that I'm inferior to everyone because I've failed a subject. I then wake up and get ready in a hurry, as I'm not too sure what the best course of action is just yet. Shortly afterwards, I go get my phone, only to see 5 missed calls in the last 4 minutes. So I go ahead and call back. My dad then proceeds to scream at me about how much of a moron and a lazy jerk I am, threatening to end me and beat me up for being such a failure. That particularly triggered me, as I've been exhibiting symptoms of ADHD and autism, especially over the last year. So my sister has me sign up, which of course means more berating and insults, but I've learned to tune her out. A little while later, I try relaxing a little, as I'm still not fully awake and kind of overwhelmed. I get a call from my dad around that time. I shouldn't have picked it up, as he then proceeded to tell me I'm a lazy moron and that I'm an idiot for probably being the only one who didn't pass my year. I just ignore him and try to just power through, not giving into his insanity, but the end really ticked me off. He sent ending me threats my way, stating, and I quote, "I swear, I'm going to end you and mop the floor with you if I find out you're not doing math every second of the day." Obviously, I then start trying to shut down the conversation, as nothing of value is to be said. He continues yelling on about how I'm stupid and that I have a rampant attitude because I said, instead of okay. Seeing as this literally just happened, I'm pretty shaken up and don't know what to do. Any advice would be appreciated. Thank you for reading. I mean, not gonna lie, if they keep making threats like that, I think they honestly deserve to be reported. I know it's probably less than ideal for OP because they probably don't want to rock the boat. I don't think many kids in that situation do want to, but it boils down to the fact that what this guy is doing is not okay. And he deserves to be held accountable for what he's saying and the things he's doing that honestly are probably very damaging. This next story is entitled "Aunt Makes My Grandpa Sell His House." I don't know exactly how to write this, as this has been going on for as long as I can remember. I thought about making this post for quite a while, but never knew if it was my place to say. I decided to create this account so that my cousin C doesn't see this, since she knows my normal Reddit account. Some stuff to know the background. I'll be talking about me, my aunt, referred to as A in the story, the entitled parent of the story, my cousin C, my mom M, and my grandpa G. And buckle up because this will be a roller coaster of a ride. The house in question consists of 2 small flats and a garden. The whole house is my grandpa's, nobody else's. My aunt was living at my grandpa's house with her daughter C. They were paying a rent, of sorts. They were paying like $100 per month, and for my grandpa that wasn't just enough since he was already in retirement, and practically living off him. A would always tell grandpa that he was being unreasonable for wanting more money, and the fact that he wasn't alone in the house should be enough of a reason to not ask for anything more, her actual words. Later on, she started complaining that she cannot change anything around the house since it's not hers, and practically tried to nudge Grandpa into rewriting the house to her. She tried that several times but never succeeded, and eventually would stop asking, and would just make changes around the house as she saw fit. Grandpa told her several times that he did not wish for his house to be reconstructed, but he did tell her that she can make changes that could be removable without any damage to the house. Later on, like 3 years later, A remarried, had a baby, and stopped talking to Grandpa. Even though she still lived with her husband in the flat owned by Grandpa, she started calling my mom, M, a lot though, like 3 times per day for weeks. A was never the one to beg, but from the first call, we all knew what she wanted. The house. That wasn't ours. It usually went something like this. I don't remember the exact details as it was in fact 3 years ago. Hey, M, I know we don't talk that much, but as you might know, I had a child recently, and I wanted to ask you if you would be such a sweetheart and give up your part of the house to me, so me and my family could finally live somewhere for real. M said, "Are you talking about the house that is not mine?" A, we've talked about this. I cannot sell you what is not mine, and if Dad doesn't want to sell it to you, then I have no idea why you're talking to me. She said, "Well, you didn't have to be such a B-word about it. I've never done anything bad to you." And then she would proceed to cuss my mom out for basically not selling her grandpa's house. And after that, she would stop talking to everyone and do her own stuff. And after that, she bought her own house. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Super, super wrong. Remember C? A didn't want her to move in with her and her new family. But since C was 16 at the time, she had the brilliant idea that she would just stay at G's place. When Grandpa said that he wishes to give the flat to my mom, I was already in college, so she was basically living alone, for rent, and wants C to live with A, her bloody mom. She basically blew a fuse, cussed him out, and said that she's been living in that house for the past 15 years, and that it was basically hers and that he can't just do this to her. So Grandpa agreed that C can live there until she moves to college. Fair enough, college would be in like 2 years. So my mom didn't make a big deal out of it. And yes, Grandpa was the one who asked my mom if she would like to move there since A is moving. And now we're in the present. C got into college and found a flat already. Nice. So M packed her bags and got ready to move to Grandpa's place. Until A told her that she doesn't wish to do that, and she'll have to pay her for the flat and the changes that Grandpa said she can't do, because even though the flat is not hers, she still paid a lot of money to renovate it and she should be compensated. My mom refused and pointed out again that the flat is not hers and she will not pay her a cent for it. But Grandpa, since he wanted to have contact with his grandchild that was living with A, the small baby that's now 3, and yes, she cut contact before, just because Grandpa said no to her or she didn't agree with something he refused to do for her for free, said that M had to wait a little bit longer. But A didn't like that because it would mean that the house would truly never be hers. So she threw a fit, saying it's just not fair and that nobody should be in the house if it's not hers. Today, Grandpa said to us that A cut him off from herself, and therefore her kid as well. And so he'll sell the house in October if A will not resolve the conflict between herself and M. I'm sad for my grandpa, as well as sad for my mom, who will probably never get to live in her childhood house thanks to my entitled aunt. I don't know what we can even do in this situation. Does anyone have any suggestions? I mean, you could buy the house. I know that's easier said than done, especially if you're not made of money. I'm a very sentimental person, so I totally understand not wanting to give up your childhood home. but maybe the best thing for everybody is to just let this house go. This next story is, Anne wants me to take her daughter to the pool even though I'm not doing well. I, female 24, agreed to go on vacation with my aunt this summer. It's been many years since I've been away. My mother pushed me a bit because I haven't been able to see her side of the family that often. She owns a nice apartment that has a pool, but we're planning on seeing the city a bit more since it's my first time here. Her 2 older sons didn't come along, so it's just me, my aunt, and her daughter, 13. Let's call her Laura. Laura suffers from epilepsy, and the meds she used to take caused a mental delay, according to my aunt. To be honest, her behavior tells me that there's more to that, but I'm minding my business. My aunt has the money to work with the best specialists and afford the best treatment. To say that she's exhausting is sugarcoating it. I won't go into detail, but Laura has many quirks and habits that are a lot to handle. You need to be extremely patient. I haven't seen Laura in a while, so I asked my mother about her condition, but I was assured that she's all grown up now. My aunt has little to no patience. She constantly snaps at my cousin, so this vacation has just been screaming match after screaming match. I keep quiet, but it totally ruins my mood. I feel bad for both of them. It must be hard for my aunt, but it's her responsibility to find a way to deal with Laura because yelling won't do much. She's talked to a psychologist but won't take his advice to heart because she forgets. I called my mother to vent a bit, and all she had to say was this: "My poor sister, it's your job now to be patient and supportive. Handle your cousin and make sure that everyone's having a good time. Laura is also extremely rude. I might have enough patience to deal with her obsessions and odd repetitions, but if she has the mind of a 9-year-old, like my aunt says, then she needs to be taught how to behave in public. The constant interrupting, yelling, and fighting is too much. My aunt doesn't even correct her when she tells older relatives to stop talking. It's embarrassing. She can be as rude as she wants." Now on to the problem. We visited their home village for a week and took a flight back here today morning. My ear still hurts from the flight, and I can't hear on my right side. The same thing happened to me years ago when I stayed half deaf for a few weeks. I'm also getting sick. My nose is running and my throat hurts. Laura desperately wants to stay at our grandmother's sister-in-law's for a few days, her newest obsession, but we'll be back in time to do a lot of swimming, but she planned on swimming tomorrow. She's leaving Thursday. I told her that I don't feel like sitting by the pool because I'm not too well. She gets bored 15 minutes later and begs me to take her upstairs to my aunt again. She had a meltdown and told my aunt that she doesn't want to go by herself. The pool is right outside. My aunt didn't say anything and basically implied that I'm going to change my mind in the morning and take her anyway. I've been with them for more than a week and 2 more to go. It sucks because there's obvious feigned ignorance going on here. Obviously the aunt can tell you are not enthused in helping out and you do not want to help out, and also that you're probably very annoyed in what they've done and how they've raised their kid, but they're willing to just pretend it doesn't happen just in the hopes that you will take them off their hands. This next story is, how dare this movie theater give a disabled person a fair chance at employment? At one of the movie theaters I frequent, there's a ticket scanner who has some kind of medical condition, cerebral palsy I believe, though I'm not 100% sure. He's in a wheelchair and his hands are kind of droopy, if that makes any sense. His job is basically to check your tickets, or if you bought the tickets online, to scan the barcode. He does have a bit of difficulty doing it, as you can imagine, but he does do a good job of it. After he scans my barcode, I always say thank you. The last time I went to that particular movie theater, I was in front of a woman with 2 younger children. The guy was trying to scan the barcode, but it was kind of struggling to keep his arm in the exact position that he needed it to be. No worries, me and my cousins were early to the theater, so we had plenty of time to wait. However, the mother was clearly getting frustrated. Eventually, the ticket taker managed to scan the barcode and told the mother where she and her children needed to go. I assumed that she would just be on her way. However, I distinctly heard her say, "They need to stop hiring." I can't even bring myself to say the word, but you can probably guess what it is. I was absolutely flabbergasted. You hear about this kind of ableism, but to actually see it is a completely different experience. My younger cousin actually whispered to me, "Did she just say what I think she just said?" All 4 of us were absolutely horrified, and the fact that she said it loud enough for that poor boy to hear was even worse. It's not his fault. You think he asked to be born this way? However, the saddest thing about this whole situation was that it honestly wouldn't surprise me if that's not the first time he's heard that. Needless to say, I made sure to be extra polite to him. I would have been polite anyways, but I felt he needed extra encouragement about that rude crap. Can we all just agree to treat people with special needs with the respect that they deserve? Does anybody else agree that this has to go back to how this person was raised? Either they didn't have exposure to people with disabilities, or they were never raised in a situation where they cared. They obviously must have grown up clearly entitled. Our next story is the 22nd anniversary of my first entitled parent, Karen. I posted this 2 years ago, but I updated it for a repost. Today, July 4th, 2023, marks 247 years of independence for the United States. However, I remember it almost as much as the 22nd anniversary of my first encounter with, and victory against, a Karen in the workplace. Now, because it's been 20 plus years, back when Karens were known as Lindas, some details will be spotty. My memory is quite good, but 2 decades is bound to make certain things fade. Picture it, the movie theater, July 4th, 2001, only 2 months before the world changed forever. I, 17-year-old male at the time, have always been a major film buff, so to work in the middle of it was just the best scenario ever. Sure, sweeping popcorn and smuggled Taco Bell wrappers wasn't exactly heaven, but you know, they wouldn't pay you if it was 100% lollipops and rainbows. It was the busiest day I've had since I started working for the theater. Everything popular was playing. At one point, 9 of the 18 auditoriums were completely sold out. I'm already well known for my pleasant customer service demeanor, so I'm enjoying the cushy assignment of tearing tickets at the podium and directing people to the right screen. Repetitive gig, but it kept me from endless runs up and down stadium stairs all night. Just smile, tear the ticket, and a chipper, "This'll be the first or second theater to the left. Enjoy the show." One of the duties across all positions in the theater is to be vigilant about keeping kids from getting into R-rated movies. Quite often, kids would often try to pull one over on us. The most common would be to buy tickets to another movie and then sneaking into the R-rated movie when nobody is looking. Whenever an especially popular R-rated movie was playing, we didn't play around. ID checks at the box office and the podium, along with an usher at the auditorium entrance who would make sure the ticket matched the film. July 4th happened to be the opening day of one highly anticipated R-rated movie. It was a sequel to a comedy with a reputation of being quite risque throughout. We had been pretty secure against youngin' sneak attacks before, but today we had to be Fort Knox. Enter 2 boys, seriously no older than 12, like I almost wanted to take their sodas away to keep them from stunting their growth. Both hand me tickets to, wait for it, popular R-rated movie. Quite bold. I admire it. I ask the kids for ID. Of course, they can't supply one. Well, no parent, no ID, no dice. They walk away and I think nothing of it. Until 10 minutes later when I hear the screech of what I would later know is the mating call of the Karen, "Demand us, accommodate us," known for their distinctive haircut and dilated pupils. Karen says, "My kids are going into this movie." I say, "Ma'am, because this film is rated R, anyone under 17 have to have." She says, "I'm going to sit with them." I say, "Okay, if you just show me your ticket, I can let you in." She says, "I'm watching another movie and then when that's over, I'm gonna sit with them." I was just dumbfounded. That's not how this works. The parent has to be with the kid through the whole film. I knew pointing that out would be as productive as baptizing a feral cat. I take a different approach. I say, "If you show me your ticket as well, I'll let you all sit together." And here we go. You know how they say you always remember your first? Yep. Now this part I remember like it was 5 minutes ago. She said, "Get me your manager." I could feel the white-hot fury of 1,000 suns shooting from her eyes. I'm surprised the papers on my clipboard hadn't burst into flames. I'm at the podium. I can't walk away. Usually the podium has a radio to page management in situations like this, but of course, when I needed it the most, it vanished. I'm unable to leave the podium, but I can't really grab a manager either. I'm stuck. I try to explain this, but it just makes her turn into an even darker shade of crimson. "This is freaking ridiculous." Karen stomps away. Well, as much as one can stomp in sandals. Quick breath of relief, Apologies to a couple of lovely elderly ladies for having to witness that outburst. And then Karen returns with manager. Manager tells me to let the kids through even though she didn't show her ticket. Oh, heck no. That was the day I learned that surgical spine removal is a prerequisite for customer service management. Karen gives me that "I got my way, you little peon" look. Now, I don't like being overridden on policy. I hate when management knowingly bends the rules and making me look like an idiot in the process. But of course, I don't necessarily want to shout "what the freak" to my manager at the same time. After all, he holds my newfound employment in his hands. As she walks away, I lean in and here's where I played dirty. I lie and tell the manager that she called me a freaking idiot. Hey, it sounded close enough to her freaking ridiculous remark that if there were still any witnesses nearby, it can seem like that is indeed what she said. Manager's eyes light up. Maybe they accidentally left a piece of spine during that surgery. Manager pulls Karen and the kids back, asks Karen if she cussed at me. I'd thought I'd seen Karen at full meltdown mode before. Nope, not even DEFCON 3. Karen goes off, alternating between incomprehensible sobs and hateful screams from the seventh circle of heck. That's the worst one, right? How dare you, you little liar. He's lying. He was cussing at me. I said, ma'am, I don't talk like that to customers. Manager shuts me up. I shouldn't be adding fuel to the fire, though honestly I secretly hoped I could induce some sort of short circuit. Her anger was making me check for the smell of toast. Her husband comes into the picture in a dirty wife beater, claiming he's a big shot at a restaurant chain. Big eater, maybe. Husband's laying into me. I'm sticking with my story. Karen's about to burst some blood vessels. Hers or the manager's, unknown. Manager sends me to the break room because I'm not staying quiet, and husband is about to punch my face in, but not before I see Karen speed walk back to the box office, crying. Manager trying to accompany her. Karen and her brood get full refunds. I did get reprimanded for talking back to the customers, and this incident did get held over my head a couple months later after a promotion, but my first encounter with a Karen ended with a rare victory. Oh, and the kicker? Karen's husband had tickets to another movie, a PG-13 rated film that started at the same time as the kids' tickets to R-rated movie, but ended a full hour after R-rated movie was going to let out. She wasn't going to sit with them during that movie at any point. And that was the time I lost my Karen virginity and started a lifetime of dodging entitlement. In the 2 decades since, I've accumulated enough wild Karen stories to fill a series of books. If you like this story, I'll gladly regale you with more. Thank you. I agree with OP wholeheartedly. It is so frustrating to see customer service people, or managers outright, who just go absolutely spineless and cave into these demands. I get honestly that it is the easiest way to deal with it, just make it go away. But it sucks to see anybody enable this entitled behavior. This next story is, I, male 31, asked my father-in-law, male 60, to start contributing to the household expenses again after I found out that my wife, female 31, had not told me that he'd stopped financially contributing. Now he's looking at moving out and possibly being homeless. Did I do the right thing? Any advice you can give? My, male 31, father-in-law, male 60, has lived with my family, me, wife 31, and 2 children, 4 and 2, for about 3 years without making any regular contributions towards the household. He occasionally helps with the groceries here and there, paid for a moving truck hire 3 months ago, $500, and some shelving about 2 years ago, $600. The issue is that we've had to move into larger houses to accommodate him and our living arrangements. This leaves us having to pay $550 a week in rent. He gets his own room, toilet, bathroom, whilst my family has to share one small en-suite bathroom. All the while, we are living beyond our means and our savings are declining. We were hoping 2 years ago that he would start contributing, but he hasn't. 6 months ago, he offered to start paying $150 a week, and this became an agreement with me chasing him up. My wife took over the household finances. In this time, I found out that he'd stopped paying and became furious with my wife. I told her that both she and her father broke my trust, with him stopping to contribute and not saying anything, and with her not saying anything whilst watching our savings dwindle. I knew this was a delicate matter, so I calmly and quietly asked him why he had stopped contributing to the rent. He mentioned that as a handyman, he had a slow turnover of getting paid. I then said, "But you haven't paid anything since March." And he just acknowledged that. I then asked him if he was able to start contributing $150 to the household starting in 2 weeks. He agreed. Since then, he has completely stopped talking to me. He approached my wife and said that he would either have to start contributing $150 or I would be turfing him onto the street. I know that he doesn't make much as a handyman, but we already have 2 children to support and can't support 3 dependents. I feel like even a teenager could make $150 a week, but he feels prideful to work for somebody else. And he can't get welfare because he's been doing cash-in-hand jobs for 30 years and hasn't filed his taxes. Sadly, my wife is really upset. She feels obligated to her dad and loves having him around, but knows that we can't afford to financially support him. Did I do the right thing? Am I in the wrong? What advice can you give? I feel bad for OP because honestly, I think they're completely in the right here. I don't think they're trying to take advantage of this guy, and it's very clearly quite the opposite. But the wife, sadly, I don't know if it's just because they care about their father, but the way they're willing to look past all of this stuff and try to just hide it while you and your wife's lives are falling apart is very alarming. I think OP should continue expecting some kind of payment from this guy who's clearly in a great situation for himself. I just wish them the best of luck with the fallout with their own wife. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy entitled parent story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.